Welcome to the Pilot Open Day webinar FAA/USA edition. It's great to have you all here, and I also want to introduce my teammates that are with me today, Antonio and Ignacio, CEO and CFI at our academy in Florida. Thank you guys for joining today. They will be answering your questions in the chat. And as you guys know from the title of this webinar, the focus today is going to be FAA programs, or Federal Aviation Administration programs. So basically, these are programs for citizens or residents of the United States that want to work in the US, but they're also programs for international students that want to come to the US, do their flight training there, and then travel back to their home country to convert the licenses to their local license. For example, if you're from India or any other Asian country, it's very popular to go to the US to do your flight training. Same thing with South America, and many Europeans choose to go to the US to do their flight training as well. So that's what we're going to focus on today. I'm going to go through the different programs, and I've got a little bit of an agenda for you. But before we dive into that, I want to take you through the vision, the values here at OSM Aviation Academy, so you get a sense of who we are, what we stand for, and how we approach flight training. And along the way, hammer away any questions that you have in the chat. We'll have a Q&A at the end, so don't worry about that. There will always be the chance at the end to ask your questions. But if questions come up along the way, just write them in the chat. And just one piece of advice to you all, if you have the question, if you're wondering about it, ask us, because then there's probably a lot of others wondering about the exact same thing. So take this opportunity, ask all the questions you want, and we hope you're going to like today's presentation. Let's dive into it. We'll start off with the vision. And at OSM Aviation Academy, we aim to shape the future of aviation. And as we see it, through shaping the future of aviation, we are also shaping the future. Aviation connects the world in ways that are otherwise impossible, and we feel like a connected world is a much better place to be. If it's business travel, if it's leisure, vacations, or if it's going abroad somewhere to study, aviation and that flight that takes you there is it's just an incredible mode of transportation that brings people together and that connects the world. And as we're moving towards a more and more global society, aviation is going to play a more central role than ever. So how do we get there? How do we shape the future of aviation? Well, we've got some mantras, if you will, things that resonates in the walls at OSM Aviation Academy, and things that we feel are really important in succeeding at what we do, which is to provide you with an excellent pilot education and training and helping you reach your fullest potential. At OSM Aviation Academy, we aim to educate airline-ready pilots. And what that means is that the students that come to our schools, they don't just come to obtain their pilot licenses. They come to kick off their careers as pilots in aviation. And when you graduate from OSM Aviation Academy, you should be airline ready. You should have all the tools, the knowledge, the skills, and the mindset to succeed in your airline career as a professional pilot. And as you can see below here, we see our students as future colleagues, and I've said this so many times, but I never get tired of saying it. It's so much more than a slogan. This really means something at our schools, and what it means in the day-to-day operation is that we know that our students are going to be professional pilots one day, and we focus on helping you get there every single step of the way. As soon as our students gain more knowledge, gain more experience, gain more understanding of the operation that we have, we raise the bar, We make sure there's room for them to take initiatives rewarded, and to take on more responsibility. Because being a professional pilot is a lot more than just flying the plane. Flying the plane is, of course, incredibly important as well. It's a central part of what you'll be doing, but so is communications, teamwork, leadership, problem solving, decision making, all these things that come in addition to skillfully and accurately flying the aircraft. We also believe that it is extremely important to be passionate about giving you the best education possible. If you choose to enroll at one of our academies, we'll have a relationship for quite a few months, and just like any other longer relationship, it's not going to be perfect, but we promise to show up every day, to give it our best, to make sure that your education is engaging, it's fun, it's challenging, and anybody that has had, and hopefully you have all had at least a few teachers that fall into this category, where they really care about their craft, about their subject, and you can tell. It really comes through. It makes it more fun to learn. It makes it more engaging, and you'll reach a higher level of understanding and skill when you're working in an environment like this. And I'm incredibly proud to be working alongside with all of our flight instructors and theory instructors and everybody else that makes this organization go around, because they really care about their work, and we have a fantastic culture at OSM Aviation Academy. And then, of course, safety. Safety is in our DNA. It's on the top list of priorities for any airline or any company operating within aviation. So it is extremely important that we focus on safety from day one. If you're here at this webinar today, I probably don't have to convince you that flying is exciting and fun. That's probably what drew you here. But safety is also not only extremely important, but it's also part of what makes it even more fun. If a well planned out flight where you've really proactively identified and mitigated the risks, it gives this sense of achievement when you know that you're on top of everything. And when it comes to safety, it's pretty sophisticated, the systems that we use, called safety management system. We report on every incident that happens and collectively learn from each other's experiences, since all of these incidents are fed through a central system and then distributed back out into the organizations, to the teachers and to the students. So safety, we work with it proactively and reactively. It's top on the agenda all the time, and obviously an extremely important thing to master if you're going to be a professional aviator. Aviation has been so successful because it has a relentless focus on maintaining the highest level of safety, and we're going to keep that up, so to speak. All right, a little bit of a quote before we go into the agenda. A mile of highway will take you just 1 mile, but a mile of runway will take you anywhere. I really like this quote. It shows the world opens up as your oyster when you earn your wings and you're able to take your airplane and then go pretty much anywhere. So we've talked about OSM Aviation Academy's values, philosophies, and for the rest of this presentation, we're going to talk about pre-entry requirements, what you need to get into our schools, FAA Part 61 programs, FAA Part 141 programs. We're going to talk about the Hercules program, and we're going to talk about different career paths for pilots. Then we're going to have a little look at the market, the job market. As you guys probably know, this past year has been a tough year for aviation. Drastically lowered the amount of people that have traveled by air, especially transcontinentally. But we are in the recovery phase, and we're going to talk a little bit about what we see moving forward and what some of the other industry leaders predict when it comes to pilot demand and demand for air crew. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the news and future plans for OSM Aviation Academy. I hope that sounds good. Let's get cracking. So when it comes to the pre-entry requirements for the Part 141 programs, which are the integrated FAA programs, you need to be minimum 16 years of age, and you need to have your FAA first class medical certificate. You also need to successfully pass a pilot aptitude test. These tests can be done at our flight school in Florida. We also have testing centers in Europe, and if you have any specific requirements on or desires on where we should set up a testing day, feel free to reach out and let us know, and we might come to a city near you. Part 61 programs, same thing with the age limitation, minimum 16 years of age, and then you need to have an FAA Class 1 medical certificate or first class medical certificate. If you're only doing your PPL, you can enroll with a second or third class medical certificate. That's also worth mentioning. But if you are in the process of becoming a professional pilot and you want to work as a pilot for a living, then you should get the first class medical certificate, because that's what you're going to need later on when you work. A little bit of information about our skill test pass rate. We have a 96% first time pass rate on FAA Part 141 check rides, which is pretty good. I mean, this is my bragging slide, but I'm very unapologetic about it. These are the things that we're supposed to be good at, and hopefully these are the things that as a potential student you will appreciate that we can deliver good results on, because that's going to help you achieve your goals. 99% first time pass on the FAA written exams, which is also pretty good, and this is the level we strive to be at. We've also had the privilege of being awarded Pilot Training Center of the Year 2 years in a row. Last year there was no Aviation Industry Awards, unfortunately, as many other things and events it got canceled or postponed. Obviously very humbling, great to be given an award like this, and especially 2 years in a row. And we're very thankful to all the students that voted for us. So really, really great, but it doesn't allow us to rest on our laurels. We need to keep working hard to live up to these expectations, of course. So this just puts positive pressure on us, and that's what we love. That's how we want it, to keep delivering to a high standard. Okay, so FAA Part 141 programs. Let's dive into it. The FAA Part 141 integrated programs take place at Fort Lauderdale Executive Airport in Fort Lauderdale in Florida. And typically it's 12 months of flight training and ground school. Takes you from little or no flying experience to an FAA certified pilot with CPL, multi-engine, and instrument ratings. And obviously, I did my own flight training in Florida. It's a fantastic place to fly. It has such great weather. Which enables, if you're in Florida and you're flying out of an airport in Florida, you can fly many, many, many days out of the year. So weather there helps a lot. Also, Florida is a fantastic place to practice your pilot skills, because there are so many airports, and that goes for most of the United States, but especially in Florida. There's a lot of airports, a lot of new destinations you can go to, and a lot of different experiences to be had. When it comes to the FAA Part 141 programs, it's also very popular, especially for international students, to continue after you've obtained your commercial pilot license and become a certified flight instructor, and even certified flight instructor for instrument. That will enable you to work as a flight instructor, to keep building your hours, to get more piloting command hours, and that's going to be very beneficial for you later on when you apply for jobs. Not to mention that it's a fantastic profession. It's so much fun to work as a flight instructor, and you get to give back to the next generation of pilots that are coming through. It's a very creative part of the industry. No person is alike. You have to adapt your teaching style to the student's learning style, and you learn a lot about communication, about leadership, teamwork, fundamentals of instruction as well. It's a very, very engaging and interesting subject that goes into teaching and learning. So that's very, very popular, and obviously a great idea to fill up your your logbook and to gain more experience and to open more doors as you go apply for airline jobs down the line. So let's quickly go through the Part 61 price list. Part 61, oh sorry, Part 141 price list. So the header here is wrong. So we've got the Part 141 integrated program. Then we got the Part 141 integrated with CFI and CFII. And you can also get an MEI add-on if you'd like. The MEI stands for multi-engine instructor. And that one's a little pricier because multi-engine aircraft, it's a more expensive aircraft to fly. But being a multi-engine instructor is a fantastic experience. And obviously, as a multi-engine instructor, you'll get those valuable multi-engine hours in your logbook when you are teaching. So you can choose to do the Part 141 integrated program without any instructor ratings, or you can add both CFI and CFII, and you can even add the multi-engine instructor if you wish. It's up to you. Like I said, very popular, especially the option in the middle here that allows you to be an instructor, working as an instructor, and make money at the same time as you're filling up your logbook and becoming more knowledgeable, proficient, and skillful. There's some additional expenses as well that you should be aware of. You're going to have to get your Class 1 medical certificate. There's some courses for the PPL, for the instrument rating, for the CPL, with computer-based training that you're going to need. And then there's going to be a fee to the examiner for the check ride, for PPL, IR, CPL, and so on and so forth. So every one of these licenses are going to culminate in a check ride where you get to show that you have all the knowledge and the skills required, and that's done with FAA designated pilot examiner. So that there's a fee associated with each one of those, and the same thing goes for the knowledge tests. And all in all, these expenses come around to $7,600 approximately. Now these are third-party expenses, something that everybody has to pay for, but it's not money that goes to OSM Aviation Academy. It goes to third party like FAA, for example, for the skill tests or check rides. Okay, so what about the Part 61 programs? This is what a more modular approach. You can do one program at a time. And we have obviously the private pilot license for those who want to fly for leisure, fun, fly with their friends, or just commute. Obviously, an instrument rating is always a great idea if you fly a lot. Enables you to fly in worse weather, enables you to fly using instrument flight rules and using instrument approach procedures to fly into different airports. And then commercial pilot license for those who want to work as a pilot. Then we have the single and multi-engine add-ons. And also, of course, here in the Part 61 sphere, we also have the option of doing the Certified Flight Instructor course, Certified Flight Instructor Instrument course, and also multi-engine instructor course. And these Part 61 courses are mainly available to U.S. citizens and residents. International students will need to enroll in Part 141 programs to be eligible for student visas. So that's really worth mentioning. So if you're an American citizen or resident, these courses are could be a good option for you. You could also choose the Part 141 courses, obviously, but if you are an international student, for example, from India or from Argentina or from Colombia, then Part 141 program is what you want, because that's what's going to give you the student visa that you need to get into the United States to study. And now we have the right header. So this is the Part 61 price list for the FAA courses. PPL will run you $7,950 US. Instrument rating $7,750 US. CPL $5,200 US, and the multi-engine land add-on is $4,300 US. The single engine add-on $1,800 US, and then we've got CFI, CFII, and MEI, as you can see. Now all these prices are listed on our website. You can also find them if you download our course catalog. So all this information is available on our website, where always the latest and greatest prices are listed. And it's also worth mentioning that all of these prices are based on completing the training with the minimum hour requirements. And in some cases, additional training may be required for you to complete the course. Then that will lead to additional cost if you need extra flight hours, flight lessons, etc., etc. Okay, additional expenses when it comes to the Part 61 courses. It's somewhat the same. You got to pay for your check ride, you got to pay for your computer-based training course, for the medical certificate, and also for the aeronautical knowledge tests that you do. Now, if you do all of these courses from PPL up to CPL, the total cost will be $4,500 US roughly. Now, if you continue with CFI, CFII, and MEI, it will be even more. So what does the training look like for a pilot? Now we're going to go through some of the different phases, what you're going to learn, just to give you an idea of what you can expect from your pilot education. In the first phase of your training, and this is true, regardless if it's Part 61 or Part 141, that doesn't really matter. In the beginning, you start practicing on the 4 fundamentals. So climbs, descents, straight and level flight, turns, and climbing and descending turns, all these different combinations. Basically mastering the fundamentals of maneuvering the aircraft. Takeoff and landing, it's something we can't get away from. We got to practice that on every single flight. Obviously a very fun, exciting maneuver to practice, and a great feeling when you master this. But the goal of the first phase is to get you ready for your first solo, to get you to the point where you are safe and proficient enough that you can take the aircraft out by yourself and do a few laps around your home airport with some touch and go landings. Great milestone in any pilot's career. It really, really is. So it's a memory that most pilots remember for the rest of their life. Moving into phase 2, it's going to be some repetition of the things you went through in phase 1. There's going to be more solo training. We're going to go into night flying as well, so it's getting a little bit more complicated. You're going to get to practice even more on the maneuvers that were introduced in phase 1, and then a few new ones are going to be added. Yeah, more solo training. We keep adding building blocks. As you learn new things and you move on to the next stage of your educational and training journey, you're going to go out and practice these things on solo flights as well. And solo training is obviously very important because it makes you the pilot in command of the aircraft. All the decisions are down to you, and you need to evaluate the situations, and you get to practice your leadership skills, you get to practice your problem-solving skills, and your self-reliance and confidence is going to grow a lot during this stage. When we get into phase 3, this is where we start flying cross-country. We start going further away from the home airport, and it's more planning involved. There's a lot more navigation. In the first 2 phases, you're going to start getting used to your home airport, local area surrounding it. But as you go into the cross-country phase, you're going to fly into uncharted, well, not uncharted, but unfamiliar territory, to you at least, and that requires a lot more planning. Also, as you fly over longer distances, the weather becomes more of a factor, and there's many other variables as well, such as restricted airspace, military airspace that you might have to take into account. How much fuel can you bring? How much payload can you bring? Etc., etc. After that, move into the IFR training phase, or the instrument rating phase, where you get to fly in and above the clouds. You get to start practicing instrument approaches, and you're also going to get introduced to the Redbird MX2 simulator. And this stage is a lot of fun. This is how they fly on the commercial airliners, following what you might call the invisible roads in the sky. But to the trained eyes of a pilot and instrument-equipped aircraft, these roads are not at all invisible. And this stage of the training will teach you how to navigate under these conditions and to fly under instrument flight rules. And if there are no clouds, we have view limiting devices that we use to simulate that you're flying in the cloud, so you can only see the instruments inside the aircraft. It's a really, really fun and exciting phase. I realize now it's not the Redbird simulator that's in the picture on the right side. This is a different simulator, but that's on me. I forgot to change the picture. But the Redbird MX2 simulator is it's a pretty cool simulator that you can see if you visit us at the flight school at Fort Lauderdale Executive Airport. Next up is the multi-engine phase. This is a more complex aircraft, the Diamond Twin Star. Modern, sleek, fuel efficient, excellent avionics, great plane to fly, and it really it's a lot of fun. Up to this point, you have practiced a lot of emergency procedures and abnormal procedures in the other aircraft that you've flown, but what's especially exciting about the multi-engine phase is that we start practicing, you know, engine failure and keep flying on the other engine that you have left. So, you know, going through the procedure of dealing with an engine failure, securing the engine, and then continuing to fly on the remaining engine is something you practice a lot in the multi-engine phase. And it's really fun. It's challenging, of course, but just like with many other difficult things to master, it feels really rewarding when you get to that point. You feel that you can handle a engine failure without a problem and continue flying to wherever the nearest suitable field is. Okay, so we've talked about how the training goes, what you can expect from the training. Obviously, there's some theoretical subjects as well, quite a lot of them. Navigation, metrology, airframes, power plant systems, all these things that you have to learn about. But now we're going to go into the different careers that could be an option for you on the other side. As I mentioned before, both under Part 141 and Part 61, you can continue your education and become a flight instructor. To get to work with educating the next generation of pilots is an incredibly rewarding and fun role to have, but it will take some additional work, obviously, to get there. But once you are a flight instructor, not only is it a fantastic job, but every day at the job you will continue to fill your logbook to gain more hours, and that's going to open more doors down the line when you start applying for jobs. So it's a great way to gain experience, no doubt about that. So if that's something you think is for you, you should definitely look into it. Then we have the regional domestic short-haul segment. Turboprops, smaller jets, typically flying shorter legs, as we call it, or shorter routes. It's a great, the turboprop aircraft, from the passenger's perspective, they're a lot more noisy, and you know, when flying at lower altitudes, there's often more turbulence and stuff like that. But from the pilot side, flying a turboprop aircraft they're really powerful. Their performance is outstanding. And the regional market is one of the other benefits about having a job in this segment is that you typically will come home to your home base at the end of every workday. Obviously, there's exceptions to that as well, with some regional airlines having more layovers and such. But yeah, no rule without an exception, right? Then we have the medium-range jet segment, this is typically what most people think about when they think about working as a pilot, you know, flying for Delta or Southwest or one of these major carriers, flying a Boeing 737 or the Airbus A320. Those two aircraft are very common in this segment. And obviously, this is also the segment that has the most jobs in terms of numbers of pilot jobs available. It's also a career opportunity. In the US, you will need to gain a substantial amount of hours before you qualify for the majors. That obviously can be done flying for a different type of operation, or, as mentioned before, working as a flight instructor. Then we have the transatlantic segment, or the long-haul segment, as depicted here by an Airbus A380, the super heavy Fantastic aircraft. It's like a flying fortress. Really, really large plane. And some pilots, this is their end goal. This is where they want to go. The long haul flying, you get to fly the biggest aircraft, and obviously the salaries in this segment is also very lucrative. But it's not a job you qualify for straight out of flight school. You need to gain experience before the doors into these airlines opens up for you. One segment that is easy to forget about is the business jet segment. It's quite a substantial segment as well. One of the cool things about being a business jet pilot is that you get to fly. Often, there's not a very rigid route network. If you're flying for a major carrier, you might end up flying the same routes several times. But as a business jet pilot, there's a lot more variation. You're also a lot more involved with the planning part. And it's a different kind of pilot job, and it can be a really, really great career to be a business jet pilot. And that's it for the different career paths. It's time to dive into the market outlook. We're going to start off with taking a look in the rear view mirror. And as you can see here from this graph published by ICAO, there has been quite a few challenges that the aviation industry has been presented with in the past. And it can be seen here, RPK is short for revenue passenger kilometers, meaning how much revenue has been made by the aviation industry per passenger kilometer flown, basically. And as you can see here, the biggest impact was after 9/11 and also after the world recession. So these two things really, really impacted aviation. It's something that 9/11 made people afraid of flying, and the world recession just made it more, people didn't have as much money to spend. Now, if we look at the recent events, what's been happening here in the past year, it has definitely had a bigger impact than anything else in the past. COVID-19 has really, really, really made this a challenging year for the aviation industry and for the companies within that industry. So there's no doubt about that. One of the things that makes the corona pandemic a bit different than the other ones in the past is that it's been because of lockdowns and government restrictions, and the borders have just been shut down, and it's been impossible to travel even if you wanted to. And what's very uplifting now, however, though, is to see that the United States has done a fantastic job with their vaccination program. Hundreds of millions of people have been vaccinated already, and they're continuing forward at an impressive speed. And the North American market has the benefit of, the United States of America is a huge country, so domestic flying within the U.S. will hopefully recover very swiftly. We've seen that in China, we've seen that in Russia, we've seen that in other large countries that as soon as the pandemics come under control, people start traveling domestically again. In Europe, it's a little bit more challenging because there's so many different countries, so it's really, really dependent on their ability to coordinate with each other. Whereas, in the United States, it's one big country, they call the shots, and when things are safe enough to open up again, air travel will most likely rebound quite quickly. At least if it follows the patterns that we've seen in China and in Russia. Now, one example to highlight how the pilot outlook has changed, and one source of information that many look to in our industry, is the Boeing market outlook. Now in 2019, this is what it looked like. The global need for pilots divided by region showed that even in North America, which is a very mature market in aviation terms, there was going to be, or there would be, a need for approximately 212,000 pilots over the course of the next 20 years. And globally, there would be a need of 804,000 pilots. Now you might think, okay, well, this was released before the pandemic, and you're absolutely right. But Boeing released a new market outlook in the middle, or I guess not in the middle of, but at least well after the pandemic broke out. And the 2020 edition does not look much different. As you can see here, in Europe, they've only lowered it by 1,000 pilots over the span of the next 2 decades. And in North America by 4,000 pilots. So still a really solid need for pilots in the years to come. And you know, people have a desire to travel. There's no doubt about that. And right now, the pandemic is keeping it under in check, so to speak, is making us restricted. But the long-term outlook here, as stipulated by Boeing, has not changed that much. This is a dip, yes, but there will still be a need, and the market will recover. So that's very, very uplifting. And I think that, you know, historically as well, there's been a downturn. The aviation industry is very cyclical. It goes up and it goes down, and every, 8 to 10 years there's a correction that happens. But historically, it's been a pretty good idea to start your education in the midst of a downturn, because that means that you'll educate yourself when the times are tough, and then you come back into a market that's recovering and that's going back, and hopefully then also the career opportunities will be coming back. You can also search for how does COVID-19 affect flight training if you want to learn more about what we did to deal with the situation as a flight school. Also, there is an article on our website, if you go into the blog section, that talks about the state of aviation in Q2 2021, where we explain a little bit about, the numbers, how deeply this pandemic has affected the aviation industry. And also we take a look at a few interesting things. I mentioned that some companies have struggled more than others, and we've unfortunately seen quite a few airlines going bankrupt. But in Europe, for example, there has been more airlines either starting up or announcing that they will start up this year or next year than there have been airlines going bankrupt. So the net total of potential employers is, if not the same, at the very least the same, if not even higher. But we dealt with it pretty well throughout the pandemic, I would argue. We have a fantastic group of students that look out for themselves and each other. We had to go through some restrictions, obviously. There was some homeschooling via video link and that kind of stuff. But we also implemented safety measures to mitigate the risks of the COVID-19 situation, so that we could quickly and swiftly get back into the air and still keep our staff and students safe. That's the most important thing. The current locations that we have right now would be fun for you to know. We have one flight school in Fort Lauderdale Executive Airport. We have one in Arendal, Norway, and one in Västerås, Sweden. And we are also planning to expand with another training location in Southern Europe somewhere. The plan was for that to happen, this year. It might not be happening this year, but we still have that same ambition of expanding even more, because we see that there's such a huge demand for professional pilot training and education. Another cool thing that we are working on is to renew our fleet. As we say, blue is the new green. We placed an order for 60 fully electric aircraft from Bye Aerospace in Denver, Colorado. Unfortunately, we were supposed to receive these planes, or start receiving these planes, at the end of this year, but the the pandemic has caused some problems in terms of supply chain, etc. So it's looking more likely that it will be the end of next year until these great aircraft start arriving. Zero emission flight training, that's something we strive towards achieving, and we want to be socially responsible. We want to minimize our impact on the environment, and this the E-Flyers, both the 2 and the 4, are fantastic candidates for initial flight training. So for the first phases of flight training. We're really, really excited about this. Can't wait to receive these aircraft. It's going to be incredibly cool to become a much greener flight school. If you haven't checked it out already, I'd like to do some shameless self-promotion here. But we do have a podcast called Pilot Talk. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, anywhere where you listen to your podcasts. And we've got a ton of great episodes there. We interview pilots, different pilots that work with different kind of pilot jobs. Everything from that to talking to the CEO of Bye Aerospace about electric aviation. It's an incredibly smart man, and it was a really interesting conversation to have with him. But we have tons of great guests on there, and it's a great podcast if you want some inspiration on, the potential careers that are available to a pilot. You can hear some of these other pilots' stories, and you can scan this QR code as well to find the podcast. You can even go to osmaviationacademy.com/podcast and listen to it there. So go check it out and let us know what you think. We'd love to hear your feedback. We're also worth mentioning that we wrapped up season 1, but we are planning to do a season 2 of Pilot Talk as well. So if you have any suggestions, ideas, any things that you would like us to cover on the podcast, feel free to let us know. We'd love to hear your suggestions and get your input on what you want to learn more about and who you think we should have on the show. Lastly, I would like for you guys, or not lastly, we're going to have a Q&A as well, but I would love for you guys to scan this QR code and fill in the survey. It's a fairly short survey, but your feedback is incredibly important to us. I know that surveys are not the most exciting thing to do, but your feedback is going to help me and help us become better at giving you information and helping you navigate, the decision up to choosing a pilot career or not. So let us know what you think. Give us your feedback. We'd love to hear it. And then we're going to shortly go into the Q&A session. So have your keyboards ready, ask away, and I will respond to your questions. And if I don't have the answer, I promise to find it for you and send you some information later. Okay, make sure you check out our YouTube channel as well. I mean, that's where we're streaming right now. So hopefully you're a subscriber and hopefully you enjoy the content on there. We have a great video series called Becoming a Pilot. It's under our playlists. Go check it out if you haven't already. But there's also lots of other cool videos on there. Right now, we're working on releasing a video every month about some of the legendary aviators. Some of the videos that have come out already is Amelia Earhart, Charles Lindbergh, and we got some really cool ones coming up as well. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and so you don't miss any of these videos as they're dropping. Okay, let's do some Q&A. And now's the time to ask any questions you might have. I can see them popping up on my screen here. I know that Antonio and Ignacio is helping me out with responding in the chat. But if you have any, I'll try to answer them here verbally as well. I see that we've got one question on aircraft maintenance course. As my colleagues have explained, we don't have a maintenance course in place in the US yet, but we do have a Part 145 approved repair station. Yeah, we're excited about the new E-planes. It's going to be so much fun. Okay, I'm going to hang around here for a bit, see if you have any questions coming my way. And if you can't think of them right now, please remember you can reach us anywhere. We have a WhatsApp. You can reach us on Facebook Messenger. You can go to our website, hit that contact button, whatever you prefer. We always respond wherever it is, if it's on Facebook or it's on Instagram or WhatsApp or sending us an email. All of these things work. So, yeah, or give us a call for that matter. So There's also really good FAQ sections on the website. We've done a lot of work on that recently. We now have 4 separate FAQs. 2 of them are for the FAA courses, so one for FAA Part 61 and one for FAA Part 141, or modular and integrated. Noted. It's nice to have you here today. I'm really happy that you guys joined. I hope that you found this information useful. Typically don't get away with these few questions, but that's okay. Like I said, reach out later if a question comes to mind. We've got a fantastic team that's happy to help you and that are standing by. And remember, if you have any suggestions for us on what we should put up on our YouTube channel, what we should do a podcast episode about, let us know. We try to educate our students and potential students in the best way possible through our online platforms. So your feedback and input and requests are highly appreciated. And with that, I want to say thank you to my teammates Antonio and Ignacio for being here today with me and helping me out. And thank you to all of you that joined this webinar today. It was a pleasure talking to you about our FAA programs. And have a lovely Sunday. Ciao.